intimacy, a physical attraction, and so he doesn't leave us guessing. Sometimes we think marriage is faithful but not fun. It's excellent but not ecstatic, holy but not happy, respectful but not romantic, pure but not practical. And I want to just remind you the Song of Solomon would say otherwise. It's both, right? It's faithful, but you can have fun. It's excellent, but it can be ecstatic. It's holy, but it can be happy too. It's respectful, but you can have romance. It's meant to be pure, but it's meant to be deeply practical. Sometimes the Christian perspective is just so one-dimensional, almost like if you're doing marriage right, you're, okay, as long as you stay married and you're faithful, everything is good. Song of Solomon, I think, reminds us that, like, let the marriage relationship and the love between you and your lover continue with excitement, with excellence, and with fun, and with creativity. We're going to see in this section a lot of creative words used. So, like, actually, Phil and Max and Tanya, how you both explained your dating relationships filled with communication and letter writing. That is, one of the primary ways of fueling love and continuing. And sometimes, once you're married for quite a long time, you start decreasing those activities. And I kind of understand why. You're living together and maybe you have kids and life gets busy. But it is good to continue to make sure that we use our words effectively in communicating with one another, whether it be on paper or verbally. And so we're going to see that in Song of Solomon 1. So let me pray real quick, and then we'll start in verse 7. Father, please bless these words to us, and please encourage our marriages and help us to praise you, the designer of marriage and romance and love. And God, you're the one who created the first pair, Adam and Eve. And we just thank you that we can enjoy you through marriage. We can also learn a lot about ourselves and, Lord, our immaturity and the need to be selfless, and also the need to use our words to build up and to encourage. So I just pray that you would accomplish your purpose through this text for us. In Jesus' name, I ask this. Amen. All right, so verse 7 says, "Tell me, you whom my soul loves," this is the woman speaking, "where you pasture your flock, where you make it lie down at noon. For why should I be like one who veils herself besides the flock of her companions?" I just want you to notice how expressive and clear this woman expresses her love for her lover. She says, "Tell me, you whom my soul loves." That seems like a very simple point to draw out, but there's actually great insight in this. I know none of us are dating, but if you are dating, one of the things that is helpful is to know what the other person thinks of you. And I've gone through dating relationships, or I've tried to go through dating relationships where the other person doesn't express their desire for me like my desire for them. And that's just a very important component, to know where your lover stands. And so this woman is very clear. I love you, Hey, tell me, the one whom my soul loves. In, relationships, there should be a mutual expression of interest between man and woman. And you're going to see that throughout chapter 1. The woman says, hey, man, you're the one whom my soul loves. The man responds, you'll see this in verses 8 to 9, by saying, I love you too. I compare you, verse 9, my love. So just the point is, let me just say this. Within any love relationship, and in particular marriage, make sure that you're expressing with words your love for your spouse. That shouldn't be rocket science, but I know that certain people struggle with verbally telling others that they love them. Maybe you grew up in a home where your parent didn't often say they love you. That's a possibility. Or you didn't hear your mom and dad tell one another, I love you. That's really important. And for us who are less comfortable with that, or maybe we have a different personality, we need to learn how to tell our spouse, I love you, in different terms, in different endearment terms. So, all right, so on to verses 8 to 9. So she's asking, this woman is asking where her man is. She wants to spend time with him. He's a shepherd, and he's somewhere out in the field. So in verse 8, we're actually not entirely sure if this is from the man or if it's from a choir of others. Remember, this is a song, so there's often a choir of others who kind of join in and offer a chorus. But if verse 8 is from the man, it's probably a flirty remark. He says to her quest to find him, if you do not know, O most beautiful among women. Again, notice the verbal language that is expressing his desire for her. Notice the compliments. If you do not know, O most beautiful among women, follow in the tracks of the flock and pasture your young goats beside the shepherd's tent. I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Okay, so he's basically saying, follow the tracks of the flock. I mean, it's very vague instructions. You know, if you were to ask, hey, where are you? Follow the tracks of the flock. You know, where is that? So it seems like he's giving a flirty remark, or maybe it's like giving some form of direction, say, you know, follow the road. But it's not very clear. It's not very clear at all. So he's probably flirting with her. And then in verses 9 to 10, even though he may not be clear with his directions, he is clear with his love for her. So again, you see this clarity of expression in this romantic relationship. In verse 9, he says, I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Verse 10, your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. So the lover does two things here. He's comparing his lover to a mare, and then he admires her beauty through the lens of jewelry. So first, let's look at how he compares her to a mare. Have you ever tried to use a word of endearment for your spouse by comparing them to an animal? Probably don't recommend it. If you do, you might get a slap on the face, all right? This is where maybe the culture back then could be a little bit out of touch with today. But, you know, he calls his lover a mare. Right, try that. Go ahead. Try that on Tanya, Max. You are like a mare, a horse. You look like a horse today. I mean, how about a dove? You look like, yeah. I don't think that this really works in our setting today, but it's the thought that counts, right? Well, there's some context to this. So apparently, I'm told what he means is this. Back in the day, when enemies would fight against one another, they would pull their chariots with stallions, all right, so with male horses, and pursue the enemy. The enemy, as a way of defending themselves and confusing their enemies' plans, would send out a mare in heat, so a female horse in heat, who would distract the stallions who were leading the enemy's chariots and lead them off course, hence avoiding the battle and kind of winning. So it was a defensive strategy. And so when he says, you are like a mare among Pharaoh's chariots, he's saying, you drive all the men crazy. You distract all the men. They turn their heads at you, and you're a distraction to me too. So that's the kind of thing that he's saying. It has meaning behind it. For us, the implication would be use your words creatively. He's using his words creatively. I know some of us don't have creative bones in our bodies, but try to be as creative as you can. He's being creative in the way that he loves this woman. And then second, he compliments her jewelry. He says, your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. I've told my wife many times, you don't need the makeup, you don't need the jewelry, you're beautiful enough without them. And that's good, but I also tell her, you look really good, with your earrings and your necklace and makeup. Like, I think it adds something to you without requiring that as a form of your beauty. And so here you have the man admiring his lover's ornaments, jewelry, strings of jewel around the neck. So, notice though, he's also focusing on her. He says, your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. And so he appreciates how she beautifies herself. That should be a part of marriage. I know every woman has a different style, whether more jewelry, less jewelry, no jewelry, less makeup. That's fine, but certainly, as a way of finding attraction in your spouse, that is a way of acknowledging their beauty, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he compliments her. And of course, you wonder why would a woman wear jewelry? Well, it means something to them. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tanya, but it makes you feel better. It beautifies yourself, and for a man to appreciate that is loving, and it's good, and it's honest, and so, all right, he's complimenting her jewelry. Now, the question is, what does the Bible say as a whole about jewelry? Because it does say some things in a warning sense, in preventative ways. There are some dangers to excessive jewelry. In the Old Testament, prophets would warn or pronounce judgments against those who wore jewelry, but because it was associated with idolatry or greed or oppression. And so it was kind of a means to an end. And in the New Testament, there are warnings about wearing jewelry. And I'll flip to two places. 1 Timothy 2, 8, or rather 9 to 10, says this. Likewise, also that women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works. 1 Peter 3 to 4 will echo basically the same thing. So the message is this, especially to balance it out with Song of Solomon. Don't make jewelry too important. Don't make how you look on the outside more important than how you act from the inside. 1 Timothy is emphasizing that a woman should be most noticeable with her good works, with godliness. And so, as much as men, we can appreciate jewelry or things that beautify our wives, we should be attracted to most is godliness and her good works. And from a woman's standpoint, the Bible doesn't absolutely prohibit jewelry, but does make us question whether or not we've made it too important. Or in the case of the Old Testament, is it associated with cultural idolatry or oppression? Would we spend exorbitant amounts on jewelry, but not spend money on helping other people in need? It's those kind of questions that will relate to jewelry. But it's not absolutely prohibited. And in Song of Solomon, the man is attracted to the jewelry, and he tells his lover that. And so, verse 11, he actually joins others in helping make her jewelry. So, verse 11 says, "We will make for you ornaments of gold studded with silver." So this is a group of people, but the man included. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe he's a goldsmith, silversmith. Maybe this man has some skills with his hands. I know women love it, and I'm sad that I can't do very much of this for my wife because I'm not very handy with my hands, but women love it when a man can make her something from his own hands. Whether that's like a piece out of wood, which Al would be very good at doing, or something else. And this man is saying, I'm going to help make my lover ornaments of gold. For you, it could be guys buying your wife jewelry. That is a classic type of thing to do or to buy for an anniversary present. It hasn't changed. It's not like God's opposed to that. Okay, here you have it. By the way, here's a fun jewelry story. When I was in college, I was convinced that I would never, ever, ever buy my future wife a diamond ring because it was not worth it. It was too much money. Why buy a diamond ring? That's such a waste of money. It's so foolish. That's just how I thought. And then I met Heather, and I bought her a diamond ring with like almost all of my savings because that's what love will do to you. I haven't bought her a diamond ring since, but I did for engagement. So anyways, on to verses 12 to 14. So now this begins a new poem. Remember, Song of Solomon is built out of these different poetic stanzas that are pieced together to form a song. And this new poem in 12 to 14 talks about intimate fragrances. How many of you appreciate certain smells that your spouse wears, like perfume or cologne? Yeah? Hopefully. I mean, hey, my dad actually is allergic to my mom's perfume. I grew up with that reality. My mom would squirt on perfume, mostly on Sundays, and my dad just did not like it, and it just never went well. It just never went well. So maybe that's you. That's unfortunate. But generally, smells are a part of the romance. That is how God has created love to work, to include the five senses. Have you ever experienced this reality of a bad smell turning you off to romance or attraction? Probably, okay? Think about your sweetie on a date farting and making this terrible smell. All right, the attraction might just blink out for a second until it comes back on. So smells are important to romance. It's not everything, but it's also part of God's good gift in love and romance. And that's what you have in verses 12 to 14. So the woman speaks, and she says, "While the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth its fragrance. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyard of En-Gedi." All right, so here's what's happening. So, like I said, smell enhances attraction. Now, this smell here is something like cologne, something like perfume that we would squirt on ourselves, but it's more of an essential oil. It's pure. So she talks about a nard, sachet of myrrh. That's a good scent. And then she describes her beloved like clusters of henna blossoms, type of flower. And apparently this scene is an intimate one where the woman is lounging together closely to her beloved so that she smells this, okay? While the king was on his couch, verse 12, my nard gave forth its fragrance. She's speaking of, being close enough within smelling distance, being close. It's all about that romantic and attractive experience. Now, like anything, we should be warned about this. Smells, it's fine to smell whatever you smell, but smell is involved in attraction here to one person. And in Proverbs 7:17-18, there's this warning that's given about the adulteress. And notice the perfumes and the scents that are attached to that bad experience. Proverbs 7:17-18 says, this is the adulteress speaking, I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love till morning. Let us delight ourselves with love. So the point is, smell is associated with sensuality and physical intimacy and attraction. And that's what you have here. And then verse 14, she says, my beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-gedi. All right, so she's talking about some kind of shrub flower. And then she says it's from the vineyards of En-gedi. Now, she's describing him like a cluster of henna blossoms. So she goes from talking about the smells that they're experiencing in one another's presence to saying, you are like this smell to me. Like you are this pleasant smell that takes me to a different place. In the vineyards of En-gedi. The vineyards of En-gedi was a place, I believe, on the west bank of the Dead Sea, all right, south in Israel. The Dead Sea, that's the sea with all of the salt content where you can float on the water when you're swimming there. I did get to visit the Dead Sea once, and it was pretty cool. You do float, and we were warned against going into the water with any cuts. Like I have a blister right now. They said cover that up because, salt on a wound hurts. They also told us in the same, on the same topic as smells, they told us not to fart inside of the Dead Sea because it wouldn't go well for you because of the salt content. So if you ever go there, you've heard my warning. Just passing it on to you. So beside the Dead Sea and its desert is this oasis called En-gedi. It's an oasis. Apparently there's a beautiful waterfall flowing down. It's this oasis in the middle of the desert. And so when she says, my beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyard of En-gedi, she's saying, essentially, you take me to another place. When I'm around you, in your presence, you are my En-gedi. You are my oasis. You are my aroma of joy. Like when you smell that freshly roasted coffee scent. That's the language I would use. You are my coffee shop with freshly roasted beans. And so she is saying, you are that to me. And that's how love should be. You don't need to go to En-gedi. You don't need to go to Hawaii. You don't need to go to an exotic place in order to experience love. I think there's a huge emphasis on that today. Like your love and your marriage will be great if you continue to go on these really cool, neat, beautiful, wonderful dates cruises, some kind of awesome resort. That's awesome if you can afford it, A, and if you can find childcare for your kids, B, that's the stage I'm in, and if you have the time for it. But if you don't, let your spouse be that vacation to you. Spend some time together. In this case, it seems like they're outside somewhere, or on some kind of lounging chair on his couch. And just when you're around your beloved, you should be able to say, you can try this on your spouse. You are like Hawaii to me. When I'm with you, I'm in Hawaii. You are my Hawaii to me. That's essentially what she's saying. You are like the flowers from the henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-Gedi. So next, notice again, this is going to be a repeat of what I've said twice in verses 13 to 14. She calls her lover my beloved, verse 13, my beloved, verse 14, my beloved. This is the first of 31 times that the woman will refer to the man as her lover or beloved. And again, I want to emphasize this. I'll try to emphasize it throughout the book. It's so important in loving relationships to express a desire for that other person with superfluous language, with language that goes over the top with your love for the other person. Whether it's you call them your sugar pie, your honey bun, or your sweetie, whatever. I don't want to know what you call your spouse, but call them whatever that expresses you love them. And you see that in this book, and that's good. That's good. It's part of God's good design. All right, verses 15. Now, this is a new poem, and it seems like they're outside now. So we'll call this an outside date or an outside love. Verses 15 to 17. The man speaks, "Behold, you're beautiful, my love. Behold, you're beautiful. Your eyes are doves. Behold, you're beautiful." The woman replies, "My beloved, truly delightful. Our couch is green. The beams of our house are cedar. Our rafters are pine." So first, notice the last few verses, the man and the woman were spending time together. And really, throughout chapter 1, you see that the man and woman want to spend time together. And there's kind of two things that are happening. They want to spend time together, and they're complimenting the other person. For instance, verse 4, the woman says, "Draw me after you. Let us run. The king has brought me into his chamber." She wants to spend intimate, private time with him. Verses 7 to 8, she says, "Where are you, my soul, the one whom my soul loves? Tell me where you pasture your flocks, where you make it lie down at noon." So she wants to be with him. And then he gives her directions to where he is. And then, verse 12, again, you see that they're spending time together. While the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth fragrance. And then here in verse 16, they're spending time together again. "Behold, you're beautiful, my beloved, truly delightful. Our couch is green." It's talking about maybe an outside type of bench, somewhere where they're lounging outside in a green land, maybe in grass. The point is that within love relationships and marriages, you need to spend quality time together. This is not rocket science. I know this is foundational, but what is one of the ways that marriages can drift apart? You get so busy with careers or kids or things or hobbies, and you start drifting apart because you're not spending time together anymore. It's very important just to see how love needs to spend time together. It's one of the reasons why, as a Christian, we emphasize quiet time with the Lord or daily devotions, because it's not that God is not always with us, and we know that he is always with us and we're always with him. is not that we can't always pray to God, pray without ceasing, but it's also very true that the Bible emphasizes intimacy with Jesus. Like in the case of Mary and Martha. Martha was busy serving Jesus, and Mary was just inactive at the feet of Jesus, learning from him. And Jesus says, Mary has chosen the better portion. Mary has chosen the better portion because she's learning from me. She's just spending time with me. She's not busy. She's just relaxing, listening to me. And so spending time, slowing down the pace with somebody else is crucial in our love relationship with Jesus and with your spouse. And so you see that in this relationship. They want to spend time together, and they make time to spend time together. Whether that's at the end of your day, you just spend time with your spouse, intentionally lounging on a couch. You need to spend time together and compliment one another. That's the other thing that you see throughout this chapter. Each person is complimenting the other person constantly. And that's something, too, that we need to continue to do. It's not superficial. It's natural. It's good. Compliment your spouse in little ways. Yeah, you saw the man earlier complimenting her jewelry. You can compliment your spouse's clothing, hair, whatever. Is what we should be doing. So the man, verse 15, 16, I want you to see this too. They're also constantly responding to one another. There's always this response. The woman is saying, my beloved is to me like a cluster of henna blossoms. Verse 14, the man responds, behold, you're beautiful, my love. You are beautiful. Your eyes are doves. He's complimenting her. Well, she responds to that in verse 16. Behold, you are beautiful, my beloved, truly beautiful. So you see something, again, very simple, but I think there's insight that we gain from this, and that is in relationships and in good relationships of any kind, but especially marriage, there is such power in initiating a good word towards your spouse, because relationships are filled with response. How many of you have found yourself in a sour mood because your spouse started it? Do you know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. Your spouse says something, or your spouse has maybe a negative mood for good reasons or bad reasons, and it does something to you. And you're more prone to snap back when your spouse says something in a mean way. How do you break the chain of kind of this arguing or bickering or these words that are going south quickly? Start speaking in language that expresses love for the other person. So hopefully you see that. As I see that in chapter 1, there's all of this response to show that, remember, what you say to your spouse will affect what they're saying back to you. Relationships are filled with responses. All right, let me finish up here. Verse 15. Again, the man is going to compare his lover to an animal. He says, your eyes are doves, all right? Can't recommend that you, again, compare your spouse to an animal, but maybe a dove would be a safe bet, okay? He says, your eyes are like a dove. There's various reasons for that, why that might be, maybe because doves showed faithfulness. Doves pair for life. So maybe there's something to do with that, the faithfulness or the purity of a dove's whiteness, or it could be the dove's beautiful feathers. But whatever it is, he's saying your eyes are lovely. Okay, there's an attractive level in her eyes. And as you know, eyes are a part of the attraction process. It's why women wear mascara and eyeliner to make the eyes pop, because eyes are attractive. And so he's attracted to her eyes, and she responds, verse 16, behold, you are beautiful, my beloved, truly, truly delightful. Our couch is green. All right, so she's complimenting him back, basically saying, Physically, I'm attracted to you. All right, that's what she's saying. And our couch is green. They're somewhere outside. Then verse 17, the beams of our house are cedar, our rafters are pine. So you get this picture of they're outside on this picnic date in a field with a forest, a cluster of trees in the background, and she's poetically comparing this to a house. And this is where their date is happening. All right, so here's your homework if you're married. Go home, schedule a really romantic date, talk to one another, compliment one another, stare into each other's eyes, try to think of some kind of animal that doesn't insult the other person, and say, honey, you are this to me. And if nothing comes to your mind, best just to be quiet. But seriously, look at Song of Solomon chapter 1 and think, how can I compliment my spouse? How can we spend time together? How can I express appreciation for him or her? And all of these things will be God-designed, God-glorifying. So let me pray real quick. Father, thank you for relationships that are fun, romantic, filled with not only spiritual attraction, but physical attraction. God, may that continue in our relationships. Help us to stoke the flames of romance and desire and appreciation for those that you brought into our life. And we thank you that these are good gifts from you. In Jesus' name, amen.